Welcome to an audiobook sampler of Dead on Arrival by author Karen Vaughan of Owl and Pussycat Promotions. This sample is narrated by Skyler Rankin and produced at the studios of Woodland Media Creative Services. And now, sit back and enjoy this excerpt from Dead on Arrival. Dead on Arrival. Prologue. May 15th, 2005. Delivering the goods.
Come on, man. Can't we just leave the package on the balcony?
The short, stocky youth was trying to drag an item off the rental truck.
No, we got specific orders to deliver the goods right to the apartment. I've got the instructions right here, dog. How are we gonna get in there without getting caught?
He was anxious about this aspect of his initiation exercise.
Rebo, brother man, you know I can't do more time if we get caught. They said the next time I go in the joint, they're not letting me out for 20 or so. I can't do it. Scar nearly skinned me alive the last time.
Rebo, whose full moniker was actually Reboot, due to his considerable savvy in moving hot computer parts, looked at his less intelligent brother.
Come on, Walter, you big pussy, help me with the package. I have to deliver this as instructed or I'm dead meat. That's the word from the man. I'll keep you out of the joint. Don't worry, we just have to convince the management of this here building that we got to get in there. Rayman,
he said as Ray came across the back parking lot.
I got a quick job for you. Bidding starts at 50 and mum's the word. Interested?
Ray, who knew the two boys loosely, was known to turn a blind eye when a business opportunity presented itself. Even if the opportunity was of a spurious nature, money talked in his book.
Show me the color of your money and we'll talk. I don't need details. It's better I don't know. Makes lying to the management that much easier.
I thought you were management,
spouted Rebo.
Word got out that I did time, and the best I could get from this gig is assistant super, no cash handling. But hey, let me worry about Gery. I'll get around him. Now what do you need?
May 16th, 2005. Finding the package. What was I thinking as I got up that Monday morning? I'd impulsively quit my job. I was on benefits for chronic health problems. However, I was employed part-time as an office temp. The placement I'd been on just didn't work out. Guess I'm just too soft-hearted to deal with the deadbeats calling in begging for mercy at the collection agency I'd been assigned to. I woke up with the sudden fear that despite my best efforts in budgeting that I would have to do something to keep my financials afloat. All those worries were put on the back burner when I tripped over the dead body in the middle of my living room. What the hell? I exclaimed as I went flying over a lump of something. As every red-blooded girl would do in this situation, I screamed. When I managed to pick myself up off the floor, I realized I knew the dead body. The deceased was none other than Anthony Velcro Hodges. He was aptly nicknamed Velcro as he attached himself to his prey until the debt in question was collected upon, or an asset was repossessed. He was said to be fairly hard-nosed and not well-liked in general. In short, he was an aggressive bully, and had been arrested for harassing people he attempted to collect from. He probably deserved to be fired for questionable practices, but murdered? As my sniffer doesn't usually work properly first thing in the morning until I get that first pot of coffee going, it didn't even really occur to me that something smelled bad. Well, not bad per se, more like something rotting. What I had assumed was fermenting overripe fruit. Perhaps I'd left my bananas out too long was, in reality, Anthony. I went around opening windows and the balcony doors just as my gag reflexes were kicking in. Too late, and I hurled my first cup of coffee out onto the patio. Maybe it wasn't just the smell, but the shock of seeing a body in the middle of my living room and the realization that my personal space had been grossly violated. The only two people that had keys besides me were Gery and Ray, the supers. I immediately thought this was one of Gery's practical jokes, but where did he get the stuff? Chapter 1. Before I get too far into the scenario, I should introduce myself. My name is Laura Hamilton. I live in Toronto, Ontario, in a small apartment building near the heart of what was formerly known as Scarborough, prior to the annexation of the greater metropolitan area. I'm an office clerk for hire, when the need to pay rent and eat arises. My most recent assignment had been handy debt collectors as a receptionist and skip tracer. My job has been to field calls from frightened and often disgruntled persons calling to negotiate, threaten, and beg their way out of collection of their favorite, yet unpaid-for, assets. So I direct them to the appropriate collections officer, depending on the size and type of the debt owed. I doubled as a skip tracer researching the whereabouts of dislocated parties who owed us money. This is basically how skip tracing works. If a debt collector cannot find a person who owes the money, the account first goes to a skip tracer, who uses any legal means possible to track the person down, even if it means calling neighbors and generally being a pest. I generally take a lot of abuse throughout the day. The reason I had quit was because I'm too nice a person to want to harass people who don't want to be found, and my trace quota wasn't close to netting the results the agency expected. So to save myself the humiliation of getting fired, I volunteered to find something more in my comfort zone. So here I was, unemployed, and to add insult to injury, standing over a smelly dead guy. As I was squelching the urge to hurl again, there was a loud banging at my door. I skirted around the body and ran to open it. It was Gery, the building super. Gery had slammed into my life for the second time after a car accident involving his cab and my car, resulting in him getting fired and needing a job. We had gone through high school together. We hadn't been friends, but he had played football with my ex, Louie. I felt partially responsible for Gery losing his job, so I managed to wrangle a gig for him as the super of my rent-controlled walk-up. I might add that it's the middle of May and we're in the midst of a heat wave. Everything smelled a bit riper than it normally would. What in hell's name is that horrible stench? Gery stopped short, quickly noticing the dead dude on the carpet. He quickly held the edge of his work shirt over his mouth and nose. I was sorely tempted to gag again. The stoicism I exhibited was slowly dissipating and being replaced by panic. What if the killer came back and decided to finish me off? Okay, Gery, I said. Cut the crap. How did you get Velcro's body in here? What do you mean, how? You mean you think I did this? Thanks a lot, he said, somewhat pissed. This wasn't your handiwork? No. Why do you think I would do such a horrid thing? Not sure, really. Maybe because you and Ray have the only keys besides me, and you love practical jokes. Yeah, I do, but nothing this heinous. My practical jokes are more of an April Fool's kind of gag. Besides, I don't even know him. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out how and why he got here. Furthermore, he's wrecking my rug. I know it's odd to worry about a friggin' rug right now, but this is how I deal with stressful situations. I ignore the obvious problem and settle for something mundane and harmless to worry about. Okay, so enough about the damn rug. I focused on the corpse once again. As I don't do cool nonchalance very well, I retorted, Gee, good point. I practically fell over him on my way out of the bedroom. Didn't it occur to you at some point during the night that there was a rotting corpse in the middle of your living room? Gery asked. For one thing, I sleep with my bedroom door closed and my air conditioning on. And second, I was so tired after this weekend, I just came in and flopped. I didn't even realize I had a guest, dead or alive. Well, regardless of that, we have to call this in. Gery got out his mobile and called 911. It was definitely classified as an emergency. I suddenly realized I probably had a lot of explaining to do. In fact, I was in deeper shit than I wanted to admit myself. I dreaded facing the local constabulary on this one, picturing the headline, "Local Girl Kills Debt Collector in Living Room." The guilt was flooding in, and I hadn't done anything. Yet. This thought was followed by what I thought my parents' obituary might be when they found out about my predicament. Man dies suddenly of a major coronary, directly preceded by death of wife due to gross shame. The reality of the situation was starting to get to me. I don't look good in prison orange.
So do you know John Doe?
Yeah, I do actually.
Did your date go that badly?
He wasn't a date. In fact, I wouldn't have even classified Hodges as a friend. The shock was starting to wear off, and I could start to feel weak in the knees. Gery caught me as I was about to go down. I love a mystery as much as the next person, but not in real life. Gery guided me to the couch and forced my head between my knees. Shock had truly set in, as well as morbid disgust and revulsion. This had to be the weirdest situation I'd ever been in. There was a knock at the door again, and it was the police. The lead investigator and crime scene unit converged on my building at once. Immediately, my home suite apartment becomes a crime scene, confirmed by the usual crime scene yellow tape. The coroner waited outside until the initial investigation was finished. The primary detective on the case was Jeff Gibbons. Gibbons was tall and had a confidence exuded by many in his position. His posture just screamed out, "Cop." As introductions were being made, I instantly noticed the slight accent, a faint down-eastern lilt to his voice, maybe Cape Breton. It wasn't strong, but it was still there just the same. Gibbons seemed to be one of those, "just the facts, ma'am," kind of cops. He was friendly, but quickly got to the point. I wondered what he was like away from the job. Gibbons looked around for a good place to talk. In order to make room for the officers to do their jobs, the detective on the scene directed me to my bedroom to question me. Okay, so it looked like a tornado run through it, but hell, I really didn't care. I sat down on my bed, Gery next to me. Gibbons positioned himself on a chair across from us. "Can Gery stay?" "Absolutely," Gibbons replied. Questions for both of you. Are you okay?" he inquired. "Not sure," I answered. "I imagine you have a few questions," I say anxiously. "Are you ready to answer them now?" "It can wait, you know, until you're ready." "No, I want to, while it's still fresh. Then I want to get out of here." "I hear you," he says and takes out his notebook. I had seen this detective on the news. Inspector Gibbons is professional, yet personable in his questioning. He was trying to make me feel at home in the worst of circumstances. It must be that East Coast laid-back attitude. "Were you home when this occurred?" I repeated what I'd managed to tell Gery, and then added that I had been with my cousin Vicky for most of the weekend. I had been babysitting her kids from Saturday until 10 p.m. Sunday. Friday I had been with my friend Elaine. I provided telephone numbers to corroborate my alibi. So he could have been dropped off any time between Friday and Sunday, and I would not have been the wiser. I was shaking my head in disbelief that someone could have gotten in here that easy. "Likely, we have to determine the cause and the time of death and the possibility that he was killed somewhere else, based on evidence of all that and lack of or presence of blood." This was from Gibbons. "Yeah, and don't forget the presence or lack of any motive on my part," I added. I stated my occupation, how I knew of the victim, and all of the information I could provide at the time. "I'm not a suspect, am I?" I was silently hoping I wasn't. Even a material witness. Hapless victim of a random drop would suit me fine. Gibbons added that I might want to get printed and tested to clear myself. He looked at Gery and reiterated the same thing. "It's just a precaution at this point." He turned to Gery. "Did you know him?" "Nope, never seen him before," as he shot me a scowl. I guess he was still cheesed off at me for the practical joke thing. I know this looks bad, but I barely knew the guy. I only worked at the agency for a month before I left. I really didn't get to know too many people there. "Why did you leave?" "Mutual decision. Yet it was on good terms. I made a great receptionist, but I guess I'm too nice to do skip tracing. I just want to know the same things as you guys, like how he got here and why they picked my apartment. Gery also explained that he had been off all weekend, working on another job as a chauffeur for an airport limousine service. There had been a relief super named Ray who might know something. I explained that I knew nothing of any deliveries. I hadn't ordered anything. Gery provided Gibbons with additional information the police might need. "Miss Hamilton," he replied, referring to his notes, "we know no more than you do. I promise we'll at least let you know how he died. And in case you have anything to fear, we'll post surveillance outside the building during the investigation. If you get any strange or threatening calls, please let us know. All of the information you can give us at this point is most helpful. We'll be talking to the manager of the collection agency and will keep you up to date. While I don't consider you a suspect at this time, I do need you to get cleared, so I wrote down instructions as to where to go for the GSR screening. Don't leave Toronto without telling us, as we may have more questions for you." "Thanks. It's creepy to think that someone got in here and left a body." So I made arrangements with Gibbons to go down and be tested for the GSR thingy they wanted, in order to clear me of any wrongdoing. Having never been in trouble with the law, aside from the odd traffic infraction or parking ticket, why start now? I just wanted to get my apartment back to normal, and the furthest I'm going is to my parents' place in the West End. I'm 34, and my mom still hasn't cut the strings. Likes to keep tabs. Well, you know. Oh God, I can't believe I was rambling, talking to keep myself warm. Shock was setting in. I nodded my head toward the living room. "Are they almost done here?" Once again, the thought of a dead body on my oriental rug was starting to be too much for me. Inspector Gibbons got up and checked the progress of the team. Normally, I enjoy stuff like this. I'm a big CSI fan. This is supposed to happen to others, not to me. I never dreamed that being part of a murder would be a reality I would have to deal with. He came back in the room and said they had the body bagged, but they were still dusting for prints. "We still have to check with the other super to see how he got in here. Do you happen to know where the deceased was heading on Friday?" "Yeah, I saw him leave just before the director called me into his office for our talk. He was headed out to do a repo on a car. I'm not sure the make, but Hodges implied it was a high-end make and a real asset to his commissions." I didn't want to say too much more on that, as I was no longer employed at the agency. "He was practically drooling on his way out the door," I said. "With Hodges, it was all about the money." "Do you think you'll get called back?" Gibbons was edging at my relationship with the agency. "I think so. I just told him I just didn't think I was cut out for being a bloodthirsty collector. I'm still interested in being a receptionist, though. And I told him I'd go back in that capacity for them. I think he'll keep me in mind. At this point, though, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to go back again." The lead forensics guy came in and told us they were done for now. There were no other prints, and the coroner rolled in to take Hodges' body. Great, I thought to myself. I needed a shower and to pull myself together. My cats, Seamus and Sean, came out from under the bed at this point. They started sniffing around the police inspector. "I didn't know you had pets." Gibbons reached out his hand for the cats to sniff him out. "Yeah, they're big babies. They hide at the sight of strangers. But they do come out for breakfast." I shrugged. "My dad's Irish, and he named them." He looked at me quizzically. "They're Siamese." Go figure. Dad likes the irony of all that. "Okay, well, I have some work to do on this, Miss Hamilton." He shook both Jerry's and my hand, saying he'd be in touch and that he would post a guard in an unmarked. "Call us if you remember anything else. Or if you need us. Tell Ray we want to have a word with him about this." "Call me Laura," I tell him, hoping the first name status will make me feel better. He didn't offer his in return, likely wanting to keep a professional distance. He offered his card and followed the team out my front door. I closed the door behind him and fed the cats. Since I couldn't hit the shower, I got dressed and headed out the door. I'd clean up later, but for now, I just wanted out of there. As Gibbons headed out of the building, he thought to himself that this is the weirdest case he had investigated in a long while. He didn't really think the girl had done this. He did have a feeling, however, that someone was seriously messing with her. He was sure someone had planted that body. There was no blood spatter on the walls, so it was very doubtful the crime had been committed there. The victim didn't really look as fresh as the others he'd seen. He wanted to see what the medical examiner had to say about the cause of death before he came to any conclusions about the case. He had a lot of angles to work, so he'd better get going. We hope you've enjoyed this audiobook sampler of Dead on Arrival by author Karen Vaughan. For more information on the author, follow Karen's blog at KarenWritesMurder.com. Keep up with Skyler on her website at SkylerRankin.com. You can purchase the complete audio production of Dead on Arrival at Amazon and other audiobook retailers.